Let's talk a bit about how you manage teams. I mean, you had a team at ERSAR. You're building a team right here. What is your style of making the team that works with you successful?
That is a very good question, because when I ask myself what's my style, I don't get a straight answer from myself. So it depends. I think I like to adapt to the situation and mainly to the person I'm talking to, because each one of us is very different, and very different from morning to the afternoon. We are complex beings. So the first thing we have to have in mind is to whom I talking to, and what is going on in this person's life. So should I be more supportive? Should I be more incentivizer of is he a proactive person or a passive type person? Is he okay with his current life? I mean, a lot of things determine what you should do. So I have those kinds of concern when talking to people. If that defines the style, I don't know. Actually, I don't know.
Okay. Let's talk about your personality type. As you know, in these conversation series that we do, we use the MBTI as a common thread. And you shared with us that your personality type is INFP. So I for more introvert, N for intuitive. You like to see the big picture and not necessarily always interested or driven. Don't need all the details to make decisions. More emotional than pure rational. So the feeling and the emotion side is important for you. And more perceiving than judging. So you look at all the different options, and you're creative in the sense that you will consider all different possibilities. And so INFPs are typically people that motivate others through encouragement and a positive vision. They're deeply idealistic, and when they work for a cause that is important to them. And they bring a quite a determination to their leadership role. And they often see the potential in other people, and they're good at inspiring others to use their gifts. Is that something that you recognize yourself in?
Yes, I do. But I have to say that I'm surprised with this evaluation that I took to find out that I'm a mediator. So I wasn't aware. But definitely I'm an introvert. I'm not the one that starts a conversation. And I usually need to have some sort of a theme to start a conversation. But you shouldn't, I think, mix up introvert with shy, because shy is something different, and that's not the case. But actually, that describes part of what I am and how I feel. Okay.
So let's talk a bit about extrovert, introvert. I mean, to be a leader, a manager. And then being introvert is not a natural thing in my perception. So how do you make sure that you give your team enough vision and that you communicate clearly enough? So you have to overcome some of the inherent things in your personality. How do you overcome that?
In a day-to-day basis, I prefer to talk on one-to-one.
Okay.
I like to meet people in the eye, talk to people. That's one way of doing things, because it's quite easier.
Yeah.
The other way is to be very clear in communication, written communication. I use very much the email, for instance, and I'm not shy, as I was mentioning before, when we go to having lunch. The team goes out to lunch, so we all enjoyed a very good lunch and a different way of being together. And I also like those kinds of approaches, not only on the job.
Another thing that INFPs are described is that they're supportive and creative leaders who encourage their teams to think outside of the box. So you have a flexible nature. So let's talk about that, about your creativity, your flexibility. How does that help you in your work?
I mean, I'm always thinking, what should I do differently? What should I do about the future? I'm thinking always about the future. I mean, the future for me is mesmerizing. I don't, sincerely, I don't give that big amount of thought about the past. That's done. Of course, I use it to not do the same mistakes, but I like to think more about the future, always. When I'm showering, for instance, I'm always thinking, what will I do next? What will I do today when I go to my workplace? What are we having as an issue to solve? Those kinds of things, you tend to use those kinds of things as a motivation also. I'm not satisfied almost every time, because there is something you need to do for sure to improve the situation on whatever matter you're thinking about.
So you're always looking at what are better ways to do things, how can we improve, and look at all different angles of a problem, and being flexible, open-minded to see how can we solve something.
But I have to say something. If I find something that's not quite as I think it should be, I don't rest until I have solved that kind of an issue. Because I don't know if I have some sort of OCD, but sometimes we are doing things and then there is an issue. I don't like to continue with the project if there's an issue to be solved for a long time.
You want it to be solved.
Yeah, I want it to be solved.
You seek and you value harmony.
Yeah.
Harmony is and you have a strong desire for harmony. So sometimes people with your personality type, they tend to avoid conflict and sometimes delay difficult decisions. Is that something that you have to work with as well?
Yes. Let me see. I would like to give you some kind of an example. Once upon a time, we had this project that it needed to start in a certain date, all over the country.
Yeah.
And there was an issue. We are not prepared to start all over the country in the same date, in that specific date.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, how can we approach this? And the solution was there. It was very simple. Of course, I'm simplifying things right now, but the thing is, if you weren't prepared to start in that date in the whole country, then we start in one place. We consider it a micro project, a pilot in the date that was scheduled to happen. And then we use this experience over here in this place to implement the system in the other places. Of course, we will have some sort of delay, a week or two, But when we end up with a system that's more robust and error-free.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So we transformed a problem, a delay in the project, in something that was an advantage. A project done and closed.
Yeah.
Because if we respected the first date, we would implement it all over the country, but then it was expected to have some sort of small issues to solve. This way, the issues weren't there because we implemented the prototype, resolved the issues, and then propagated the solution. That's it.
Yeah. So in your work, what are the days that you're most happy? What are the moments when you feel really good in your work? What makes you happy in your professional life?
I have to say it's those days when you can dream about the future. That's I mean, when you start thinking, okay, how should I mount this thing? What are the components? What are the people, the teams that are to be involved? This preparation phase, it's major, because if it's not rightly done, then the rest is a mess. And since we are previewing some sort of future reality, that's where I mean.
Okay, that's interesting. So you enjoy your work most when you can dream up a vision and a plan.
I don't sleep.
Okay.
When I'm in that kind of phase, I can't sleep and I'm not tired. I mean, I don't go to bed. For instance, this Saturday, I went into bed. It was 7 in the morning.
7 in the
Sunday, but I was feeling really fresh.
And what did you do all night then?
I was around a couple of files with offices, layouts and stuff in this building, because one of the things where I'm involved at the moment is the renovation of the office space. And in the renovation of the office space, it's not an IT issue, but it's a systematic issue, because if you put, this building has 9 floors. If you put someone that needs to be close to a colleague, and you put someone in the 1st floor and then another person in the 8th floor, then you have a problem. So due to this remodulation and this restructuration that happened recently, we are considering to redo the layout of the offices. So I'm involved in that, and I'm thinking, okay, how does this department need to contact that department? They need to be close to avoid traffic between floors and traffic between areas.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, very important to make sure that the right people sit together, also that they have space to be creative and and so on.
And rooms for people to talk and everything. So it's not an IT system, but it's a system.
Yeah.
And it needs to be, it's something like a soft infrastructure. Yes. It needs to be in place for the people to have the necessary conditions.
And you're so fascinated by optimizing this in the best way that you work on a Saturday night until 7 o'clock a Sunday morning.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Laying out a lot of spaces, working with CAD files and CorelDRAW and wherever, and Excel. I mean, it's an opportunity for me to know the people and the areas of this institution where I'm working at the moment, because I'm new here. For me, it's also an opportunity to know people and places.
This completely aligns with and other definitions of INFPs, which is very creative, passionate, energetic, dedicated, and hardworking. So I think that completely fits the bill here. That is in your professional life, in what gets you going, what gets you excited. On a personal level, you have children as well, Luis? So what is it that you would like to give to your children? What are the values that are important that you would like them to take on in their life?
I have a daughter. Yes, she's turning 13 this month. I think there are a lot of values you can talk about. But the one thing that I'm keeping her in mind is you have to learn a lot of things to do just one thing. Think for you. Think for you. Don't use the other person or people opinions, the newspapers, the social networks. Don't let those guys think for you. So think for using your own heads.
So critical thinking as a skill is something that is important for you, that you want to give on to your children.
That's the main thing. Of course, a lot of other values that every parent wants to pass on to their children.
So Luis, tell me, have you had important mentors in your life? Who are the people that you look up to and that you learn from?
Yeah, I have to say my parents, my late mother, and of course my father.
And what did you learn from them?
To be honest, I think it's a very interesting quality. I recall I was a kid, I don't know, I should have 8 years or so. I went to a family house, and I was there as a kid. I looked at something and I snatched it. And afterwards my mother looked at it and she said, "You have to get that back.
Bring it back.
Bring it back." And I was, wow, you have to do that. She wasn't yelling at me. My mother wasn't that kind of person. She was just calmly saying, "You did wrong. You have to correct it." That was a big lesson to me. And my father, he was also, he's now having a very good life because he's not working anymore. But my father, he was also working in the public sector, and he taught me to be honest. And there is something that I don't like to be identified with, that's running in this society that we have, at least in Portugal. Hypocrisy. We have a lot of it.
You have, serious?
Yeah. As a society, every one of us does it. I mean, if you take the social networks, for instance, you take pictures in every place. You go to LinkedIn, you say, "I'm the CIO of this and that." I mean, people overdo it.
Oversell themselves.
Yeah, oversell themselves. And the underlying reality is that's hypocrisy. Unfortunately, it is. Yeah. And it's something that we breathe every day as a pollution in the air. And I'm a bit against it.
Okay. So, critical thinking, harmony, honesty, hardworking, working on creative ideas, thinking out new plans and so on are some of the things that really describe you, right?
Yeah, yes it is.
So Luis, with this I would like to thank you for your time and your hospitality here. and for sharing all your ideas and talking about your programs and yourself. So thank you very much.
I also wish to thank you for your time. I mean, time is the most important asset that we have, because when we are going to have to live those final moments, that will be the one thing that we wished we had more. So I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Louis.
You're welcome.